What do you think about Candace Owens versus Daily Wire feud?
Tomorrow.
Is that you have to be pro-Israel in the Daily Wire mission statement?
Like,
So
well,
that's
like, this is my heroic because I can't call this guy a cripple. Like, I guess. Right? Like, come on.
What did you think about doing debates with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro?
The only scary thing now, though, is that you used to have more of an opportunity to kind of like grow and be crazy. Like I brought this up a lot that like people talk about like college kids being radicalized and shit. And it's like, you should be radical when you're a college kid. You're 18, 19 years old. Of course you should be crazy. But now with the social media landscape, you can immortalize your crazy and you get way more attention than you ever should.
Yeah.
No offense. I don't give a Greta Thunberg thinks about global warming when she's 15 years old. Why the does anybody care? I don't care what this 20-year-old thinks about minimum wage. You haven't worked, motherfucker. Your allowance was more than minimum wage. Why the fuck are you saying anything? But like, I understand why they want to say it, and they should be. But now when you've got social media, and it's like, I might be 20, but I can end your life if I tweet the right thing. Okay,
Yeah.
I might be 19 years old, but I have like 50,000 followers on Twitter because of my takes. How does a person like that grow? Why would you?
Yeah, probably eventually they just make the growth comes from they make one misstep and then get destroyed. Like
Yeah, but it's
they
so
say
much
the wrong.
more harsh.
It'll be
Oh my
that's what I'm
God.
saying. It'll be harsh. It'll be like all this growth like condensed into this like.
No, but Dave, what are you saying? Like how you become better is little steps in the one way. Okay, not there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You're almost like a little mole. Like you're just like, okay, actually that's a bad idea. You just get little shocks.
Right.
Yeah, you fuck up and you correct, and
when you get big shocks, you stop doing anything.
or you become super radical.
Yeah.
It's like,
I want to
no.
be a shocker.
Yeah, exactly.
That looked fun. What did he do? I want that guy's job.
Wreck people's lives.
Yeah, it's obviously they figured out how to hold their teachers hostage, but again, like I think Israel Palestine stuff shook that up as well.
Yeah, it definitely showed a lot of people a lot of different things about different political groups that they weren't aware of before.
No,
Yeah.
the craziest thing I saw is that dude Jackson Hinkle or whatever, and he's I know he's insane, but he's now saying like I'm an American patriot, so I stand with Iran.
Russia?
No,
Oh, Iran now?
Iran.
Okay.
He goes, I'm an American patriot. I stand with Iran. I'm like, what? Like Jesus
That
Christ.
guy is one of the worst grifters.
It's insane.
Horrible,
Yeah.
I don't know that guy.
You don't know Jackson Hinkle, really?
No, I think I know the name, but I don't know
He's
what he
like-
does.
I don't think that many people do. I think his shit is crazy botted.
crazy.
It's crazy botted.
What does bot him mean?
Like, he's got like fake followers, fake engagement on all
Oh,
this shit.
Yeah.
how do you get fake engagement?
He's I think he's literally paid for by Russia. He had like a Russian girlfriend, like a state given girl. That's not proven, but she was like a pageant winner, like Russian chick that came
really?
in for a while. Yes. Yeah. I think he works. I think he takes a paycheck directly from.
It is crazy that Russia today was actually just like giving people money to make TV shows in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had a channel.
What's that guy's name? Yeah, what?
Lee Camp or whatever.
Lee
But
Camp.
they had a channel here until the war, and then they were just like, we're removing the channel. But
Yeah.
there was no idea that it wasn't like Russian propaganda.
Also
They just had
funny thing too, I'm shitting on conservatives a lot. I try to even it out, but like funny thing too is conservatives are generally the ones right now. Generally, they're the ones that are primed to believe like every crazy conspiracy on fucking everything. But it's so funny because when anything regarding Russia comes up, they're like, no, I don't think they would ever do that.
Right.
Not Russia.
Yeah, why would
Russia?
they?
Would they really try to? No. I mean, or maybe they do a little bit, but like we do more. We do just as much. Did you see the big story that came out about like the directed energy weapons?
The Havana syndrome stuff? Yeah.
Like every conservative's like, no, I don't think that's real. And I'm like, this is your prime material. You don't think it is real? No, that's Russiagate.
That's
okay.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because it was on 60 Minutes, and they go, well, anything on 60 Minutes is a lie.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So they just go, well, if it's on 60 Minutes, must be a lie.
Yeah, and because it involves Russia, and Russia now is like the fake thing that you attack Trump with. No matter what Russia does now, it's like, I don't think that.
I mean, they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot with the whole Russia collusion stuff. Because,
A little bit, yeah.
Like, do you? What is your thoughts on that? Because
I mean, there was more good stuff that came out of that investigation than the 50 million things we got on Benghazi or Hillary Clinton's emails or any of that shit, but nobody recognizes that. The FBI was probably too politically motivated in what they were doing, and I think the Durham report said as much. But I mean, like, there was a lot of crazy, all those Mueller indictments about those Russian entities that were operating the United States, that were like controlling Twitter. Some of the
like
larger
bot farms and
not just bot farms. Like there was an account called 10_GOP. Everybody just thought this was like the official Tennessee GOP party. It had like over 200,000 followers. Like it's a Russian controlled account, like proven Russian controlled account, or all these like Black Lives Matter accounts.
Yeah, I saw the Black Lives, and they were organizing stuff. Like
they were
didn't have
organizing marches and protests and
stuff.
shit. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
but nobody gave a
isn't
fuck.
that something you would expect from an adversary? Like I would expect that like America's probably has some sort of department that's doing that in all sorts of other countries. Like, isn't that just like some sort of
You might expect it.
Cold Warfare, like tech warfare almost?
The issue is you might expect it, but then we're not allowed to like do anything about it. So for instance, I think you would expect that, but that's part of the reason why the FBI and the social media companies will have like this cooperative relationship where they're like, oh, give us a heads up, you think something's weird. But then when they're doing that, now the conservatives are like, oh, well, actually, that just proves a collusion that they're trying to, help their political friends out and everything. It's like, okay, well, maybe they also just want to know there's like crazy Russian accounts that the FBI might know about that Twitter doesn't, and maybe they want a heads up on it. But I don't know, yeah. It's all like, there's like so much political opinion here that is divorced from the facts that nobody can really have a reasonable conversation.
And most people are not willing to, like, you see a tweet, and you just go, this is what I believe in, so I'll never look into this, who runs it, and people are so easily duped. Like,
yeah, me included.
I
mean, look at that, the genesis of that fucking kitty litter story. God damn.
What's that one?
Oh,
where Joe Rogan, he must have saw a Facebook meme or something, and he's like, they're putting kitty litter boxes in schools for kids to be trained.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember that was going around.
It was a guy said it.
Yeah, someone said it, and then, you try to look into it, and you're like...
The guy was making a joke. No, basically, it was a right-wing, Congress person, or I don't know what...
Yeah.
Republic, one of those.
Sure.
Something.
Politician.
Political
guy. He was basically representing the school, and he was like, all these people were being furries, and he essentially stood up and he was doing an interview, and he was like, we got these litter boxes everywhere, we're gonna have to call pest control on these people. He was being like hyperbolic.
Okay, sure.
And then that's what...
And then Joe Rogan repeated on his show, and then the whole country for like a couple weeks is talking about like there must be furries in the classroom that are like state-sponsored.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes you just see something and then you see...
Apparently the furry thing was an issue, the guy said, though, but they weren't shitting everywhere.
Yeah, they weren't using litter boxes.
It'd be the equivalent of like too many goths. Like, the kids are... It was like normal in some ways where you're just like, these goths keep crying and blocking out the hallways.
But it's more like so many people start amplifying that story, and then you just, you go on Twitter and you see it 100 times, you go, I guess this happened, right? Because most people don't have the time to every single thing they see to go investigate whether, like, where's the original source of this. They just go, all right, like 100 people are saying this, it must be true.
Yeah. Do you either play poker?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Are you familiar with the term table image?
Yeah, of course. It's like whether you're like a loose or a tight player.
Yeah, I think the problem with little stories is for all my poker knowledge is like 15 years old, because after they banned Poker Stars, fuck Poker Stars.
It was hot for a minute.
Yeah.
I sort of got
But like, you have a table
like
image.
Chris Moneymaker and all that stuff.
You have a table image. When you bet or do things, people are giving you credit for, or they're analyzing you through the image that you've created of the table.
Right.
That's how you're.
That's why like some guys will pretend that they're drunk.
Sure.
And stuff.
Yeah. Or even like you said, just tight or loose players. The problem with a whole bunch of little facts, and people even on my own stream get mad, like, why are you being so pedantic on this thing? And I'm like, because if you accept like these 50 million small minor incorrections, it makes these minor incorrect things, it makes the really big bullshit story a lot easier to believe. And you have to be right on the small stuff, because if I come in every day, like let's say that like we all worked here, I come in, I'm like, God, Ryan tells like so many fucking racist jokes in the elevator. Okay, hypothetical, right? And I say this, yeah, I know, but we'll say for sister, it's hypothetical.
The elevator is fucking open
every
season.
Day, and I kind of say this, and then like you kind of repeat it to people, and blah blah blah. Let's say that we do this for like a few months, right? And let's say even Ryan hears about it, he's like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Let's say that you get a black employee, and let's say this guy's got an axe to grind for whatever reason, and he's like, fuck you, like you fired me on some racist shit, and you actually did some crazy shit. Well, now you don't want to be looking at all of your coworkers and be like, okay, hold on, now I know it seems like it. And they're like, okay, well, you have said a lot of race shit for a long time. I was like, no, I didn't. That wasn't actually real. That didn't happen. You're fucked at that point.
Yeah, at that point,
over.
Yeah.
So the small, little, tiny lies or stories that people tell may not be a problem in and of themselves, but the perception that it changes, and it makes you more amenable, or makes you more receptive in the future to a big bad story, and that's the problem. So even the little lies, I think it's very important to keep those in check.
Yeah. I was talking to someone last night actually about QAnon and like how people could even believe in something like QAnon, and then it really did seem like there's so many things that just literally all just start in 2015 when Trump just started calling them like media liars, and he was right about so much of it, and he really opened the eyes, and then it allowed these like insane things to latch on because people are like, yeah, we are getting lied about everything. So why isn't QAnon real?
Yeah, also people aren't evaluating who's giving the criticism, because people will say some shit like, oh, they're all liars. Like, well, what about you? Because you bring up that Trump said that and you might have pointed that out, but what was Trump's first big foray into politics? You remember the first big issue in 2015? No. It was that Obama was fucking Kenyan.
Right.
Nobody remembers that. He was the one that pushed that stupid birth certificate with Sheriff Arpaio or whatever from Arizona or whatever. That was him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's like,
I didn't know he started the Kenyan thing.
I don't know if he started it, but he was the one that grabbed it and blew it up into a huge thing. We need to see his birth certificate. I was like, what the
I know it sort of is going to sound like a bad cope, but to me, to some degree, though, everyone sort of looks at him as like, yeah, but he's not coming out here in a suit being like, I'm the arbiter of truth, the way the news is. Like, so
it's I know Chappelle line if he's an honest liar, basically. Right?
I don't, not, yeah, exactly. Like, I just wouldn't see it that way because you're like, when you're like, oh, Trump's lying too, and you're kind of like, yeah, duh. And then the other one. And then with the other people, when they're lying, it's like, it feels like they're lying. And then if you say they're not lying, everyone calls you a conspiracy. Like that shit's, I guess, makes you feel pissed off. And then like being pissed off and then also feel like you're being lied to and then feel like no one would listen to you. I think it's like a snowball of things that just, then you instead of looking at the next option with equally as critical eyes, you're just like all in on the next thing. It's kind of like the guy leaving the ex-girlfriend, and then the first girl, the like was the worst girl ever, and then the next girl's just like the first girl I see, he's just all in. You know, again.
Yeah, you definitely create conditions.
You leave an abusive boyfriend to another abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, you can't. You have to treat people like adults. You can't treat them like parents, where you're just like, listen, you don't understand this right now, but you'll get it in the future, because then it's not like they turn 18 and now we can level with you and everything. People are too condescending sometimes, and they don't give enough space for antagonistic thought to deal with it and then see it dealt with.
Yeah, kind of, exactly. What do you think about Candace Owens versus Daily Wire feud?
I don't even know what's going on with that.
Really?
I'm always primed to. Well,
I don't know. You debated Candace Owens sort of or whatever. That's why I thought you were.
Well, I don't think. I mean, I followed it, but I don't think anybody knows what happened. Right? That hasn't been made public yet, because Candace keeps hinting that she was fired for some insidious reason. I'm guessing related to Israel or Jews.
Yeah.
And Ben Shapiro challenged her to that debate.
Seems like it's kind of true.
Well, it depends on what you mean when you say that. Because it could, like, for instance, it could be the case that Ben Shapiro and Jeremy came to a decision that they were going to let Candace go because she's like parroting like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which I think is reasonable. Or it could be the case that they got marching orders from the Mossad to get rid of Candace Owens because she's asking too many questions, which would probably that'd be horrible if they did.
No, I think it would probably be more like, you could even just remove all of it. You're just like, hey, we have a company with like 6 people and we all kind of think the same shit.
Sure.
And then one person's thinking, all the exact opposite shit on what my cardinal issue is. Like, let's get rid of her. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you're like, you built your thing being like, I'm this free speech guy. So it's like just straight up a pickle that you're in.
A little bit. I blame conservatives for that. When you talk about freedom of speech, you're talking about the government. That's what freedom of speech means. But conservatives for a long time have played a dangerous game of, what about Section 230? Like, Twitter shouldn't be allowed to ban anybody and blah, blah, blah. And now they've gotten themselves in this world where, rightfully so, they should be allowed to fire or hire who they want. That's not a violation of freedom of speech, but your audience has been primed to think that any time you fire somebody or any time you do anything relating to speech, you're like violating a freedom of speech, which isn't true, but you've primed them to think that. So
that is true. And they just wanted to basically talk shit about all the trans stuff forever. And that's why they're essentially citing the freedom of speech stuff. And,
Well, there was sort of, because you tell me, because you probably know about this stuff pretty well. Like, it is true that when you say freedom of speech, you mean the government, but like, there was sort of like a culture of, you can't say anything that wasn't just because of the government. That so I feel like when people are like freedom of speech and let's say they were talking about comedy or jokes you should be able to make, or, what you should be able to say in a movie without getting in trouble. Like, what is that then? I mean,
I think there is a principle, there is a concept of people should be allowed to say what they want in certain arenas, and you should have the freedom to do so, but just you need to separate that out from the legal part. I just think that's important, that they're two different concepts.
There's a legal part.
They're similar concepts, but the enforcement mechanisms on both of these are different. One is like, what should the law be? And the other is like, what should we push the culture to be? And I agree generally with the culture of freedom of speech, but it's not the law. You can't enforce that legislatively.
But they do have So that's why I'm saying, like, when people, it's in a pickle a little bit. Like, you know, it's same with Elon Musk having Don Lemon on and then kicking him off. Like, even if you're right, you're allowed to do that. It just looks like you're going against your principles.
It looks bad, but I mean, the reality
And
is...
you are, though, right?
Well, I don't think so. Assuming, I don't know what they've all
Don
said in the
Lemon
past,
stuff
but-
bombed, but the problem is he didn't say, he goes, his interviews just do terrible numbers. Why would we pay him $10 million?
Well, that's not... He kicked him off before that interview.
Oh, yeah, right, that's true.
But I'm saying
Yeah,
that, like...
that is true.
But for that, like, Elon has a right to allow freedom of speech on social media platforms, and he should champion that, I would hope. But that doesn't mean he has to pay people to work for him who have ideologically different views and then to disseminate that ideologically different point of view, right? He doesn't have to hire him as like...
I know it is weird.
Yeah, I
but,
mean, like the New York Times or whatever, and or even NPR were talking about, like, this guy didn't even say anything that bad, and they're like, you're suspended.
Like, if it would be nice for me to start a media company in the future. I really want to. But when I do that, I'm not hiring, like, the most diverse point of views. It's going to be stuff that I generally agree with.
Right.
I feel very strongly about freedom of speech. I don't think that YouTube or Twitter or the government should, like, be restricting heavily freedom of speech without a really compelling reason, like child sex material or whatever, stuff like that. But when I go to hire people, I'm not going to pay a guy who's like an anarchist to talk about how evil, like, all government is and we should all go crops.
The question is, if you hire a guy that has similar views to you and then he starts leaning that way, at what point do you fire him? That's really the question.
It would depend on whatever the mission statement is of my company. When I feel like it's going in violation of that, I'd be like, this is not what we're here for. If you have a life-changing moment and you want to spend the rest of your days evangelizing everybody, that's not what I want on my platform. Like, go do that somewhere else.
Is that you have to be pro-Israel in the Daily Wire mission statement?
It might not be explicitly, but there's probably going to be some parts of, like, foreign policy that will encompass. That'd be my guess. Like, if you're pro, like, super American interventionism all over the world, and you're like, America needs to go to war with every single country, or whatever, I imagine that's probably not part of the Daily Wire's mission statement.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to be a total isolationist, and you're like, America should pull back embassies and bases from every country in the world, that's probably not part of the mission statement. So, yeah. But also,
Yeah,
I think there are people that aren't 100% on board that Israel train on the Daily Wire. I think Candace Owens' issue isn't the Israel stuff, it's the weird Jew, Holocaust, anti-Semitic shit.
I think she's just too deep into the Jew shit.
Yeah, like when she was tweeting out a few weeks ago, like, who started porn?
And famous last words for a lot of people.
Which one?
I just say it's been. I mean, there's two things that have gotten a lot of people. You start getting really deep into JQ. You start getting really deep into race IQ. Those are the two. How many content people have, like, that was, you know, remember, you go, what happened to that guy? You go, you could pinpoint the day that he started getting all in on that.
But I wish people too, like, I think if you genuinely want to explore those topics, I think it's fine to do so. And I think you might even be able to get away with it. The problem is just that they don't ever actually explore, right? Like, I'll run into people in debates and the guy's like, I'm skeptical of the 6 million number. And it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, I don't know if I trust.
He says it's 10 million.
I don't know if I trust, like, all the stuff or whatever. It's, okay, well, like, what have you read on this? Okay, well, nothing. Okay, well, like, what have you, what have you researched on this? Like, why do you think, for instance, you don't believe the 6 million? How do they come up with that number? Well, I'm not sure, but doesn't it seem like a lot? It's like, well, maybe, or maybe it's not that much. How many Jews lived there before? Oh, I don't know. It's like, okay, so you're skeptical on a thing, and you've got a lot of questions, and you've been repeating these questions for, like, 6 months. Like, imagine I walk around New York City, and I'm like, Ryan Long might be gay. I think he might be gay.
I've been saying that for a while.
I think he might be gay. He might be gay, isn't he? Like, do you really think he's straight? Do you really think? I mean,
Sure.
like,
It's not
oh my
exactly
God.
journalistic integrity.
Yeah, Jesus. Like, I say, hey Siri, show me a twink, and it brings up, like, this guy's YouTube page, right? Is he actually? But then you're like,
I go the other way around,
yeah,
though?
go for it,
Imagine you said that, and you go, "Oh, Ryan Long might be gay," and then all of a sudden your YouTube channel gets taken down, and your Twitter channel get down. You might start being like,
Yeah, wait.
What the fuck?
What does Ryan
might
have
be-
his tentacles?
Maybe he is. Yeah, true.
You can see why that would make people like break their brain for now. You only talk about that, and you're like yelling in a well that I'm telling you this guy's gay.
And I understand what you're saying, but, like, I feel like we make way too many excuses for adults, and at least for political content creators, right? Like, I can understand why a person might feel a particular way, but you should know better. Like, there are going to be some things that are just such fucking hot topic things. If you don't deal with them carefully, like, yeah, you're going to get banned because a lot of people feel ass mad about this thing. It doesn't necessarily mean the thing is true, right? It just means it's like
Definitely, there's things where you have to deal with them like crazy carefully, and
or it's like that. There'll be like the comedian quote. I don't remember who said this initially, but it's like, or it's not even. I think it's just like an edgy quote. It's like, if you want to find out who rules you in society, find out who you can't made fun of.
Well, they say,
and it'll show like a kid in like a wheelchair, and it's like,
so
well,
that's
like, this is my hero because I can't call this guy a cripple. Like, I guess. Right? Like, come on.
That they attribute to that's like a big
pretty funny.
anti-Semitic thing, and that they attribute to Oscar Wilde.
Oh, do they?
But
Oh,
it's
okay.
not. It's not. Oscar Wilde never said it. It's
I've
like-
seen that attributed to Voltaire.
Yeah, sorry, not Oscar Wilde. Voltaire is
Oh,
the one.
okay.
Yeah. But it's it's but it's not. And like I think I can't remember who it is, but it's just like some guy who said it. It's like some dude. I don't
Some
know.
dude, yeah.
It was nobody of any
most
sort
things
of
are, yeah.
importance and yeah.
I guess Danny's mom rules me.
I get. I get that a lot. That specific quote.
What do you think
Jew stuff.
Is there a case for that America shouldn't be involved in, do you think that, like, right now, as we're talking about this, like, there are people everyone online is kind of saying this is World War III, it's going down kind of thing. Like, do you think that there's a reasonable case to say that, like, America shouldn't be getting involved in this? Like, why are we spending money? If Israel wants to do that and you want to support, why are we funding this?
I think the issue is that when people analyze the future, they always think of it in terms of like either this could happen or this could happen, and they'll look at something like America could do a thing or we could not do a thing, and they'll look at all the bads and maybe even some of the pros, and then they'll look at us not doing the thing and they'll be like, oh, okay, we should just not do the thing. And I think what happens is people get confused because they don't realize that the second option that you're evaluating, that's not actually what's going to happen. It's not going to be, should America do the thing or not going to do the thing? The question is, should America do the thing or should Russia do the thing? Should America do the thing or should China do the thing? Because if America steps back, there are going to be other people that are looking to exert their influence. And then your question becomes, who do you want to guarantee safe passage through the Mediterranean? Do you want it to be the United States or do you want it to be Russia and China? Like, who do you want to have that influence?
Couldn't you do this, though? Couldn't you say we're not getting involved in neither are you guys?
But how?
Well, you're basically...
Well, wait, we do that, but what you just said, you're not going to get involved either. Then we start funding separatist groups.
Yeah, that
we
is
start funding the
involvement.
Mujahideen. We start funding other people. Well, we're going to coup your shit. We're going to fund all these separatist fighters. The FSA, maybe in Syria. Like, that's what we're going to say. Well, we're not going to get involved. You're not going to get involved either because we're going to fund these people. And then you get the proxy wars.
Well, you don't have to fund anyone. You just could be like, hey, China, Russia. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, by saying, "Hey, don't do that," that is
I'm obviously
that is an action. Right?
Okay, I'm oversimplifying a ton.
But
of
you
stuff.
go because then you go, "Don't do that," and they go, "Okay," or what?
Yeah.
I guess the argument. The argument is that they make it worse a lot of times if you look at it. I guess you're saying compared to what?
Exactly, yeah. Because the Soviet Union made a lot of things worse too, you know? People are like, should we be involved in any of this? Like, how do you feel about NATO and why does it still exist today? And it's like, well, after the invasion of Ukraine, I bet like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are probably really happy that they're in NATO. They probably feel really good about that right now because they know they're not getting invaded. So yeah, people will look at the messy world or the messy things we have today, and then they'll make you contend with some like idealized alternative. It's like, well, I don't have that idealized alternative. It's like arguing with every socialist. Like, oh, well, socialism would be way better. Okay, well, where the has it worked? Did it work in the Soviet Union? Well, that wasn't real social. Okay, what about Vietnam or China? Well, that's not real. Okay, well, you then. I'm not going to compare my messy real-world implementation of capitalism that has to exist in the real world and be messy with your idealized, on paper bullshit. And I think that interventionism is the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the 30-year-old telling you the perfect life to live again.
Basically, yeah.
And what would America do otherwise? They just got to bomb something.
What did you think about doing debates with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro? Did you think that they were like, when you're doing that, did you walk away being like, oh, that wasn't so good, or did you walk away being like, that guy's impressive?
I think Ben is smart. And I think it's interesting watching him twist himself into a pretzel defending Trump. I think it's very funny because I do consider him to be a pretty smart guy, one of the smarter people in media. Jordan Peterson has insight and was very cool when it came to psychology things, but I feel like he's been completely swept away in the anti-establishment conspiratorial narrative on everything. Like, he hit every single major belief. I think I brought up
What do you think that is?
My theory is I think people have mind break moments to where something really bad happens to them by one side and they're forever thrown into the other. It happened with Brett Weinstein for the Evergreen stuff. It happened to Jordan Peterson with the C-16 stuff. Like, you have your one moment and you're like, fuck you, I'm never going back over there. And then you're just like completely lost.
I've actually had that with people that I know that were like, obviously I think our worlds are a little reversed because you live in Miami and we live in like New York comedy scene. But like, I know some people that were like crazy, like liberal types, and you just be like, then when you look into it more, you're just like their whole life, like their whole last 5 years was 4chan, like trying to fucking take them down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And just like,
it's like, I get it.
Yeah. So you kind of, you do a lot of times become like who you, because you start an enemy and then you're just always fighting them. So, I mean, that might happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the last thing I was going to say about just debating in general, because I had sort of a theory and you tell me what you think of it, but Well, the first question is, do you think that, like, are you trying to change people's minds? Like, is that the goal?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I have a theory that whether it be like debating or writing or anything, it's you actually change more minds when it is like the consequence, not the goal. In some ways, that, for example, like if you're writing something and my goal is to change people's minds, but if your goal is to like do the best at it, you'll actually change more minds. Like, people's minds are usually changed more by someone that they kind of look up to, or someone who performs well, or like, you're like, oh, that guy's opinions on everything were pretty good. But
as your ethos, pathos, logos triangle, there's like different forms of rhetorical strategy to make something.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, it's like you can appeal to people through like your character, through the type of person you are. You could appeal to people emotionally, make them care emotionally about a particular thing. You could appeal to people through like facts and logic, because it's just different audiences and at different points in your life, people are always going to feel.
And what the three are what?
I think it's ethos, pathos, and logos are like your three. It's like the rhetorical.
Which one's
triangle.
Pathos?
Fuck, don't ask me. Logos is the logic one.
Logos is logic.
I think ethos, I think, is character.
Emotional? Oh, character.
I think. And then I think pathos is the just like appeals to emotion, I think, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think ethos might be like, this guy has been building charities in Uganda for his whole life, and now he's here to talk, and I respect this guy's character. And then like pathos might be like, hey, you want to make this law illegal? Well, how would you feel like if your own child was impacted by this? And it's like, oh shit, okay, you're right. And then logos might be like, listen, you want to do rent control, but 55% of people have been kicked out of their houses as a result of this, right? Mm-hmm. There's like different ways to hit a problem.
It really does kind of cover all of them.
Yeah, well, ideally, yeah. But even in your own life, you'll notice this. Like if you're arguing with like a girlfriend or whatever, or a boyfriend, if you're arguing over things, it's not always going to be like the logos, fact, and logic approach to do everything. Sometimes you might have to demonstrate through character that, like, I think that going to the gym is good, and actually I feel healthier, and it's like been really great for me, and you should try it too. Or sometimes it might be emotional arguments, like I think your mom or dad would really like it if you would do this too, or sometimes it might be the logical one. Yeah,
women don't tend to respond well to facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, but neither do men. So careful. Nobody responds well to that one. Yeah.
Facts don't care about your feelings almost felt like, so many philosophical and political movements are a reaction to like it going too far the other way before a little bit, but like
sure.
The facts don't care about your feelings. It feels like it's funny, especially now, because you're just like, feelings is the only thing that matters, especially when it's like war. It's like hearts and minds, like all that sort of stuff. It's like, unfortunately, politics does care about feelings.
It's funny because you really get like the shot reverse of that exact ideology, because we went from facts don't care about your feelings to Donald Trump, who's a person you're supposed to take seriously but not literally. So it's like, have you ever heard that saying before?
Yeah. That's good.
So you're getting like, oh, I want the emotional impact of what he's saying. I'm not like literally like
sort of having your cake and eating it too a bit.
Yeah, or it's just like, you see, all of it's bullshit at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess a little bit, but yeah, you're right. So I guess I'm more making like a practical statement that you're sort of actually looking at technically. Mm-hmm. But I was sort of saying, like, it just feels like if your goal, even if you're arguing with someone, like if your goal is to change their mind, you're probably less likely to change their mind than if you actually are just like, your goal is to explain this better, or to, I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes people will watch a debate with,
I'm not saying I'm saying that
you're saying that it's a byproduct of what you're doing. People will believe rather than it's the stated goal.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Second order effect, almost. Like.
I think
it's a second order effect is exactly what I'm saying.
I feel like a really good example of this is I feel like I can tell when a movie is trying to tell me that women are really strong.
Yes.
I don't think that was the goal for Alien or Aliens or Alien 3.
It just did it.
And I don't think that was the goal for Kill Bill, but that was definitely a byproduct. Like, there was never a point where I was watching either of those movies. I was like, oh, I get it. She's a woman. Jesus Christ. Because that like wasn't the focal point of it. But the result afterwards was like, oh yeah, I guess women can be samurais and do shit, and that's like cool as fuck. And you just walk away thinking that. Whereas like in a Star Wars movie, like one of the newer ones, you're like, okay, she can never fail. I get it. She's like always amazing because we can't show a woman failing and blah, blah. Like it feels more like you're hitting it over the
pandery.
head. Yeah, it feels pandery. And then I feel like less likely to be receptive to it than just like, well, show me something cool, respect the medium, do
that's
really
the exact
well here.
principle.
Yeah.
And those things end up just being worse.
So would that be the same principle with the logic, ethos?
It can be. Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Would it just be that would that be just described as you're just doing it poorly?
Yeah,
Because
the only reason I don't like to generalize it because it really depends on the topic and it depends on who you're talking to. Like if I'm stepping into like a very blood sportsy arena, like my goal is to eviscerate the person next to me. I am going to scream at you and make you feel like a fucking retard because that's what we're here to do. But if I'm on like a chiller platform, like we're going to have like a calm back and forth, and I'm going to try to be like more constructive and say like, oh, I think that these things are better, and like, this is the type of America we should be proud of. And
you know what's interesting with the Jordan Peterson thing with you? It was exactly interesting what you're saying. Like, I feel like a lot of times hanging out with someone, you're kind of like, oh, what shit that we both might be into? You're kind of almost, whereas like you, Jordan Peterson, it was weird. You were trying to find something that you didn't agree on. Like you were kind of needling around until you found like a thing you could argue about. It's like a funny, like, it's just like a funny, like way to do interviews.
Yeah, I have a thing with my audience where it's hard for me sometimes to talk to people that I agree with a lot because I just am more geared towards argument.
Yeah, like you and Norm Finkelstein.
That is horrible.
That was funny.
My God.
Just I don't know. He's a character. That guy is.
Well, Danny said the best thing, probably true. We're just like, people who agree with him, left agreeing with him, and people who agree with you, left agreeing with you, probably.
Well, pretty much. But I mean, I'm sure there's some people who kind of maybe don't know, but this is such a...
There's people in the middle, and there's people that you don't see, but you have to know they're there. And now I can feel this because I've been doing this for 10 years, I guess, for political stuff. And now I can see them more as I continue to grow, and they send me emails, stuff like that. Okay, they're there. It's really hard to see because both sides that agree or disagree are screaming the loudest.
Right, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And maybe, those are not the type of people who leave comments on stuff, so you really just don't know. But you got to figure, like, on a video like that, I don't know, I'm sure it did millions of views, but it wasn't millions of comments, so there are people who are just watching and not I guess engaging.
Yeah, and your goals are always just like planting the seeds. If you're talking to somebody you completely disagree with, you're just planting the seeds. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit, dude. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, man.
And are you going to start a media company? Is that what's next?
That's the goal. I finally have shows running in my Miami studio now, so hopefully.
So you have shows running with you doing them?
Yeah, I'm doing 2 shows right now, yeah. So
that's the move, right?
Yeah, it seems to be.
Or you're going to hate it and just be like, why my life was good without running a company like this?
I don't know, it'd be more fun to set the media agenda. Like if the Daily Wire wants to cover something, everybody will talk about it. And I had that power like on Twitch and kind of in my spare on YouTube, but it'd be cool to have a broader ability to set the media diet.
We're all talking about this thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk today about this thing because I think this is more important than whether or not, this person's too much of an asshole to go to a trans bathroom or some shit, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. And you're gonna hire like hosts, like 5, or are you gonna do the same thing as
other? Yeah, I got to look for other talent and see, but we'll see. Yeah, it's down the road. We'll get there.
You gonna put Young Turks out of business?
I don't know.